February 28th, 2020. I am Seth Leibsohn, and I may not win any popularity contest today. If I may process a resentment first, if you wanted to watch our Hulk, Alan Dershowitz, make a presentation to the Senate last night, indeed, even shaming Adam Schiff and the impeachment managers to their face, if you wanted to watch this master constitutional attorney, a liberal Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama supporter, an attorney the most famous defendants in the country go to for help, if you wanted to watch him summon up the argument of his life on behalf of Donald Trump not being convicted in the Senate, you could not have watched it if you were watching Fox News last night. Nope. Instead, Tucker Carlson preempted that presentation, though Fox had played almost every other presentation yesterday. Indeed, Laura Ingraham urged her viewers to watch Dershowitz, but they couldn't do it on Fox News because Tucker Carlson thought it much more important we watch him continue to blast away at John Bolton and discuss Pete Buttigieg. His ego was too strong for us to watch Dershowitz on Fox instead of him, so we had to switch to CNN or MSNBC, for they carried Dershowitz's presentation live. It gives me no joy to say this, but I had to say it, and it's a shame for Tucker and Fox. So if you missed Alan Dershowitz, it was masterful, and I think may have given a Democrat or two, perhaps more, reason to vote to acquit Trump on these impeachment charges. Dershowitz did sum up a lot of scholarship and great rhetoric, but here was that beautiful shaming part, and the visual is even better, where he turned to Adam Schiff and his team. Can you play this audio for me?
For the Senate to remove a duly elected president on vague, non-constitutional grounds, such as abuse of power or obstruction of Congress, would create a dangerous precedent and be construed, in the words of Senator James N. Grimes, into approval of impeachment as part of future political machinery. This is a realistic threat to all future presidents who serve with opposing legislative majorities that could easily concoct vague charges of abuse or obstruction. The fact that a long list of presidents that were accused of abuse of power were not impeached demonstrates how selectively this term has and can be used in the context of impeachment. I'm sorry, House managers, you just picked the wrong criteria. You picked the most dangerous possible criteria to serve as a precedent for how we supervise and oversee future presidents. The idea of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress are so far from what the framers had in mind that they so clearly violate the Constitution and would place Congress above the law.
The professor speaking to his students. So there was all that. And as I said, I think he gave a couple or a few Democrats reason to hang their hat on an acquittal. Thank you, CNN and MSNBC, for airing it. It's not a sentence I like to say. Meanwhile, the trial went on today, and you can get a sense of the American people's patience for it by noting that Kobe Bryant's stories led off this morning's major news network syndicated shows, and then a lot on the coronavirus. It's as if House and Senate Democrats are living in a parallel universe, which makes us question the whole point of their titles, representatives. Who and what are they representing? That all said, the president continues the heavy lifting of the business of our country and the world, unveiling today a massive new peace plan for the Middle East. I always find humorous those kinds of sentences and phrases, Middle East peace plans. Why? Because there is no such thing. It's a synecdoche for saying an Israel-Arab or Israel-Palestinian peace plan. Forgive my sarcasm here, but it's true. There is no peace in the Middle East anywhere. Just ask expatriates of Lebanon or any resident of Lebanon. Just ask Syrian civilians, ask Yemenis, ask Libyans, ask reformers in Iran, ask dissidents in Saudi Arabia, if they're allowed to talk. The Middle East is the world's hottest spot, most lethal place, and for a reason. And that reason isn't Israel's some 6 million or so Jews. Could it possibly be the 3 million Muslims of the Middle East? What do the Israelis have to do with the fight between Saudi Arabia and Iran, or Iran and Lebanon, or Libya and everywhere else, or Yemen, or Iraq, or the slaughterhouse that is Syria, or the ruination of Lebanon, once the France of the Middle East? The answer, obviously, nothing. Could it be Arab nationalism wedded to fascistic Islam? Could it possibly be? Sunnis and Shiites slaughtering each other, invading each other, claim border fights with each other. But Israel, which has so much in common with either or both, is either the obstacle to peace or will be able to achieve peace with either or both. That's why I'm chary about any and all of this. Don't get me wrong. If the Arabs of Israel and Israel could come together, that would be beautiful, and I would support that. But let's look at a little recent history. When the two states were created, Israel accepted, the Arabs didn't, and went to war, killing 6,000 Jews. When they tried to eradicate Israel, and in 1967, Israel took territories for defensible borders, Israel has since returned over 90% of that land. When Israel withdrew from all of Gaza in 2005, all of it lock, stock, and barrel, Arabs put in place and elected themselves a government of Hamas, the most radical of Muslim fundamentalist movements that then and still claims it wants no Israel of any size whatsoever, that all the land there is Muslim Holy Land. And of course, the factions of Gaza and the West Bank went to hot and cold war with each other as well. The West Bank being represented by Fatah, whose official emblem, is still a rifle and a hand grenade covering all of Israel, from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv to Herzliya. That's the moderate group of the West Bank. So color me skeptical. Desirous of peace, but skeptical. Desirous of the kind of peace Arabs in Israel have. They have all the civil and civic rights of anyone. They can own property, they can vote, they can be represented in parliament, they are, and they can sit on the Israeli Supreme Court, you name it. They have more rights in Israel than anywhere else in the Middle East I can think of. Consider that. And whoever mentions that. Meanwhile, in the quote-unquote moderate Fatah-controlled West Bank, Mahmoud Abbas is in his 15th year of a single 4-year term he was elected to in 2005 as the president of the Palestinian Authority, because he won't hold himself accountable to elections. Still, the heartstrings are tugged and pulled, and efforts are made for peace, or for at least some kind of further accommodation. That's why proposal after proposal has been made, and each time, just ask Bill Clinton, the Palestinian leadership refuses. As Bill Clinton said to Yasser Arafat, "You ruined my presidency." It wasn't exactly true, but why that sentiment? Because for the umpteenth time, the American president and Israeli prime minister made offers that comprised over 90% of what the Palestinian leadership said it wanted, only for them to turn around and say no and unleash a violent intifada that killed over 1,000 more Israeli Jews. So we come to today's offer by the president, and you may ask why the Palestinian leadership wasn't there. I'll give you the New York Times, not exactly Israel's good friend. Here's what the New York Times wrote today, and I quote, Palestinian leaders who no longer speak to Trump officials are likely to oppose each of the elements of the peace plan, even if they are combined with the economic rewards of $50 billion or more that the Trump administration says it can deliver, close quote. Palestinians won't even talk to this administration. Donald Trump is putting on the table an offer of land, an offer of sovereignty, an offer of $50 billion. And they won't even talk to the Trump administration. That does make it harder for everyone to broker an agreement, doesn't it? But it is worse again. The New York Times today, quote, again, same story, a senior Palestinian official said on Monday that Mr. Abbas had recently received an offer made through a third party to speak with Mr. Trump, but declined to do so, close quote. Palestinians via third parties were reached out to from this White House so as to get them at the table for a negotiation, and they refused to do so. Refusal to talk to America, refusal even through third parties. That does make it all harder. And why is that? It's because we all have a beating heart and breast that wants the best for all people. But when leaders like Abbas refuse to submit to democratic processes, when they ban civil institutions of modernity like gay rights groups even meeting in the West Bank, you know that? In the West Bank, Abbas wouldn't even let a gay rights group organize for a meeting last summer. And when they give speeches that the Jews had the Holocaust coming, as Mahmoud Abbas did 2 years ago, you have to ask, peace, peace, but why is there no peace? I'm Seth Leibsohn, 602-508-0960. We'll be right back. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about my friends at Guns Etc. They are true American patriots. They strongly support our president, and they have over 10,200 square feet of firearms and firearm accessories. Please take my advice and stop by their store, which is a symbol of American freedom, or visit them at gunsetcetera.com and have access to over $350 million in firearms merchandise.